Yeah, thanks for these suggestions. I love the idea of like the what type, what about, how and why, and like so what. I was just curious to ask, like, what would you say is the difference between like the why question and the so what question?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the difference between why and so what? Okay, so if you're talking about why would probably pertain more to context if we think about that broadly. So why has Shakespeare explored the ability for power to corrupt, right? Why has he done that? Well, that forces you to think about what are the influences behind it. So, and in Shakespeare's time, there were all of these things going on. Well, that's why he's explored it. So you can have that take on the why. I'll come to the so what in a second. Another thing about why would speak to the motivations behind the characters. So it depends whether you want to relate that in general to the context of the composer. Otherwise, the why can pertain to someone's motivations. Why do they want to do that? Well, Shakespeare explores the ability for power to corrupt due to contextual influence. That was number one. Or Shakespeare explores the corruptibility of power. Like, why does, I guess it kind of can overlap with how there, if I'm trying to apply it to that example, but it's not the best example for that one. But I would normally be talking about why an individual would do something that is kind of corrupt, right? Why would they do that, right? Well, it's in their self-interest. It's for a financial gain. It's to entrench their place within a community, right? They want to belong to a particular collective, right? If you're thinking about merchant or something like that, you'd want to talk about why would we want to alienate others to kind of validate our own identity, to validate our own position. So that's speaking to the motivation of the party at hand there, or you can interpret why in that contextual way. Now, so what is saying, well, who cares that power corrupts? So but like, that's a different question. That's saying, that's not asking how did we get there, or why did the composer explore it? So what is saying, well, what's the consequence of all of that? Well, because power corrupts, it means that individuals are constantly at threat of losing their autonomy, of losing their freedom. Because if power is being corrupted, then that may actually impede on their ability to voice their true self, right? Or it may alienate the individual from a community. So you can see, so what looks more at the consequences and the dangers and the threats of something, whereas why looks more to the root cause of where that came from, or why can be interpreted broadly, depending on where you're talking about, to the composer's context.